Hi, my name is Patrick, and I'm the lead developer of Oh My Japan, a website that allows native speakers of English and Japanese to meet new people who share common interests. In this video, I'd like to briefly talk about what makes Oh My Japan different than other websites that you may have used. Today, we live in a world where many things are getting better all the time. For example, the first desktop computer that I ever used had a hard drive that was less than 1 gigabyte in capacity, while the laptop I have now has more than 500 times that much space. And do you remember the original Super Mario Bros? Once you had moved forward and the screen had advanced, you couldn't run back past the edge of the screen that you had already traversed. It's like a memory limitation in the game. But the newest Mario game has Mario jumping around three-dimensional planets. You can go back and forward and up and down, and you never run out of lives. Now, playing art critic for just a second here, in a sense, perhaps the original Super Mario Bros. Is a far more apt metaphor for life, because the number of our lives are limited, and once we move forward, we cannot turn back the hands of time. But, that aside, in terms of technical achievements, the technology companies, especially entertainment companies, have done an amazing job in the past few decades of improving their products. Have we, as human beings, done a similarly excellent job of improving our friendships? Well, let's see. Are your friendships 500 times deeper today than they were 20 years ago? Have they added more dimensions? Of course, this is an apples and oranges comparison. But if we are honest with ourselves, I think that many of us would have to admit that our friendships have, in a different sense, been outpaced by technology. What do I mean? Today, people have so many opportunities to keep in touch. There's email, text messages on mobile phones, making actual phone calls, online forums, chat rooms, Facebook, Twitter, Skype, Line, Yahoo Messenger, IRC, Kakao Talk, Google Talk, AOL Instant Messenger. Yes, believe it or not, AOL is still around. And some people still write letters, even if it's only around Christmas or New Year's. There are more options today than at any prior point in human history to communicate with people. Yet, somewhat paradoxically, many people feel isolated by this abundance of choice and are outright lonely. Well, perhaps this is not a paradox. When you have too many choices, it is really hard to decide. The UN estimates that we have 7 billion people alive on planet Earth right now. 7 billion! What does that mean? Well, if you introduced yourself to everyone on Earth for just 1 minute each, non-stop, no eating or sleeping, you would finish your introductions in the year 15,331 AD. That's approximately 13,318 years away. In other words, a very, very long time. So I think it suffices to say that we no longer live in an era where we can meet and greet the people around us and then decide who we like and who we want to spend our time with. Because we are always already running out of time. There's simply too many people. We need methods to help us filter through these vast numbers and to find people with whom we have things in common and who have things to teach us and to whom we can teach things in return. Now that's quite a challenge. Partly because there are more people alive today and partly because globalization has, for better or worse, given us a common language of TV shows, movies, video games, and other pieces of pop culture, people today share hopes and dreams as well as interests and hobbies with so many others, even though they have yet to meet many of these others. And so this is where Oh My Japan comes in. The goal of Oh My Japan is to help people make lifelong friendships. This is not a marketing slogan. It is my sincere hope that people who become members of Oh My Japan are able to use the website to make friendships that last their entire lives. That's a lofty goal, but you have to aim high to do something great. People don't achieve great things by starting out with goals that they themselves think are average. To develop a friendship, it takes both time and space. You need to take time to communicate with new people, and the amount of time you have available limits the number of friendships you can have. Unfortunately, you don't have 13,000 years to introduce yourself to everybody. So you need some way to filter by interest and compatibility. On Oh My Japan, the main thing that everyone has in common is some relationship to or interest in the country Japan. Now, of course, Japan means different things to different people. For example, you could be living in Japan, or you may be interested in traditional Japanese culture, like tea ceremony and flower arrangement. Or you may be interested in pop culture, like anime and manga. The definition is open. The idea of setting the scope of the site to Japan is to provide a core around which a warm, welcoming community can be created. It's not a limit that is intended to restrict who can and cannot join the site. While I was studying the Japanese language in college, I noticed that the people who are interested in Japan tend to be a little bit different. And I have to say that my subsequent experience as a foreigner in Japan meeting other foreigners has borne this initial observation out. Now, I don't mean this in a bad way at all. I think it's great. Because in a similar way, Japanese people who are interested in English also tend to be a little bit different. And I think that having such difference in common can be a great starting point for a relationship. Perhaps you agree. Whatever your attraction is to Japan and Japanese people, I hope that Oh My Japan can help you find people with whom you can pursue rewarding relationships. So, how does Oh My Japan work in concrete terms? When you join the site, you have to complete a profile in which you introduce yourself. Filling out the profile takes some time, but the benefit is that by answering all the common questions, such as where you're from, what languages you speak, what you want to do with your life, and so on, then when it comes time to exchange messages with other members, you're able to see what you have in common and what you think is interesting about each other before you begin talking, thereby allowing you to find people with whom you are likely to have a deep connection right from the start. There's a second reason for requiring profile completion. If you spent some time in Japan, you know that there are a large number of questions that Japanese people will nearly always ask you when you meet. Like, how old are you? How much Japanese do you know? How long have you been studying Japanese? What got you interested in Japan? I don't know about you, but it isn't that fun for me to answer the same questions over and over again. So on Oh My Japan, you have to answer these questions once, when you sign up, and that's it. You never have to answer them again. By investing a little bit of your time at the start, you'll be paid great dividends later. The system for sending messages is structured in a similar way. To send a message to another member, you have to read their profile first. That's obvious, right? But some sites for meeting people allow you to send their members messages after looking only at their pictures. Today, though, I think there are too many people in the world to try to make connections randomly or by appearance alone. So instead, on Oh My Japan, people read each other's profiles before sending messages, and their first messages to one another are at least about a paragraph in length. Now, this paragraph requirement for the first message is because we want to encourage people to send substantial messages. Hi, how are you? Might be okay as a message on Facebook with someone you already know in real life, but it's a very poor way of introducing yourself to someone that you've never met before. In short, Oh My Japan is a throwback to the days when people wrote each other letters, but it's better than that because we've got profiles that allow you to find people who you would like to write to. Of course, although relationships start with exchanging messages on Oh My Japan, once you have gotten to know each other a bit, you can deepen the relationship however the two of you like. You're certainly welcome to continue to exchange messages on the site for free, but you can also chat on Skype or meet in real life, whatever you are comfortable with. So if you like to write, if you have any kind of interest in Japan, and if you're ready to make new friends, please consider joining Oh My Japan today.